Hi guys, it's Footbox TV. Back to at you with some boxing news. So just pulling some big boxing stories for the week. As usual, please subscribe to my channel. Um, so the first bit of boxing news I want to talk about is the news that came out earlier this week that Billy Joe Saunders had pulled out of the Canelo Alvarez fight. When he means pulled out, the fight was not officially signed, so he just said he doesn't want to be considered for the running. Uh, as you may know, Billy Joe Saunders was in. He was in a kind of a two-way battle with Canelo's with Callum Smith for the May date. Alvarez fights on May and September, and Alvarez decided to go with Saunders. Unfortunately, because of the current situation, the fight was actually never signed, and it didn't go. It didn't happen. So Canelo Alvarez, he's looking to fight in September the 12th. That's the Mexican weekend. He fights on those 2 days, and basically Billy Joe said he doesn't want to be considered. So two of the reasons he's saying he's not considered, I want to just look into. So the first one is he's saying he can't train properly. Now, Canelo Alvarez for me he's a great fighter and he's what I'd call a complete fighter in and outside the ring. I think he's fought all styles in the ring, and then outside the ring, I think he's very business savvy. He's basically taken the mantle from Floyd Mayweather as the cash cow in boxing. Obviously, some would argue that that could belong to Anthony Joshua, but I'd say it's Alvarez, and he has the lotto, and I think like Mayweather did. Mayweather knew he was going to fight twice a year, and what Mayweather often did is he didn't really need to promote his fights because everyone knew who he was. So he didn't need to announce the fight 4 months early and then go on a mad promotion run. And he would often pick his opponents late, and obviously everybody was waiting for what they called a Mayweather lotto. And it seems that that's what Canelo Alvarez is basically done. It's July, potentially got about 2 months. That's about 8 weeks for Saunders to train, and Saunders has said that's not enough time. Does he have a point? Yeah, potentially. Obviously with everything that's going on, I don't think his coach Ben Davidson maybe not doesn't have. I don't think he has a gym, so obviously they'd have to find facilities. Obviously getting sparring partners in and etc. Potentially, yeah, it's not enough time. Um, the thing is, this fight was meant to be in May, so and yeah, it did get obviously cancelled or postponed or whatever, but one would have thought that Billy Joe would stay in shape, and over the last few years he's been quite inactive and he's been having issues in between fights. Kenneth Alvarez, I've seen videos of him on YouTube, and he's in shape, man. He's ready to. He could go next week if he really wants to. So I don't understand why Billy Joe is not kind of got that mentality. This is the lottery. This is the money lottery. Why is he not in shape? Why is he not training? Like really and truly, I think he's saying that 8 weeks is enough to get his weight down, but he won't be able to actually do any boxing training. And it's kind of a shame because he hasn't really, he's had issues with that. And is it a valid excuse? No, I don't think so because this is Canelo's the big cash cow. I think he should have from May. Obviously things affect everybody differently, but he should have been in camp. He should be ticking over. I heard he was in Dubai with Ben Davidson. As you can see, Ben Davidson, he's in this video with him. Ben Davidson, one of the reasons he didn't train, Fury didn't retain his services the second time is because they said he was more of a personal trainer than an actual coach, and Fury didn't think he was learning anything, so he went over to train with Sugar Hill to learn that Kronk style. And but when Tyson Fury was coming back and he was so overweight, Ben Davison was basically sitting on the couch saying, "I was sleeping over his house, making sure he'd get up in the morning and train." So that's why one of the things I think Billy Joe went with Ben Davison. He needs somebody around him 24/7. Ben Davison doesn't have a big stable. Um, like the other trainers, like Dominic Ingle. Obviously, he's got his base in Sheffield. He's not going to Dubai or anywhere for anybody because he's got other trainers he trains in Sheffield. And I think Billy Joe wanted a guy that he'd be able to kind of would tailor to his needs, and that's what Ben Davidson has done. So I don't see what the issue is why he hasn't been staying fit in between, the May. And I think the last time he fought was on the undercard of that KSI card. So he's probably fought once this year, or what was it last year? And he hasn't. He's just not in shape really, and I think that's to him. Like I said, Alvarez. I've seen him in the gym. Like I said, Alvarez. He's taken over that Money Mayweather kind of tactics, and he is. You know, he picks the date. He knows the date, and he's going to pick the opponent when he wants to pick the opponent, and that's the end of it. And he's in training. He's staying in the gym. I've seen him. He's in the gym. He's in shape. He's ready to go. And considering he's coming from 175, he's probably cutting weight as well. So he's made sure he's not leaving it to the last minute and ballooning up. Like you never see Canelo Alvarez balloon up. Outside of the ring again, like Mayweather. These guys are disciplined, and I think Billy Joe needs to look at himself and think, you know what, yes, it's not enough time to train properly, but whose fault is that? You had the date in May. Why didn't you just stay in the gym, stay ticking over? You could have easily, I'm looking. Tyson Fury's got his YouTube channel. He's training 3 times a day. He looks in shape. Like he's not out of shape. They give him the call to fight Wilder in 2 months. I'm sure he'll take it. So I don't think it's an excuse. It's quite poor on Billy Joe's part. Great fighter, but he's near his peak now. And are we ever really going to see him in those big fights? He's pulled out of. Obviously, we know what happened with Andrade. We're not seeing a Eubank rematch, even though I think he beats Eubank. We were hearing a lot of talk about him and Canelo Smith, both. I think that would have been a pay-per-view fight. I know maybe people will differ, but it would have been a big stadium fight. Both were with Eddie Hearn, both now with Sky, both with the Zone. Why didn't that fight happen? Like no reason. So he really is kind of getting past it. And I don't want it to be a case of we'll never know how good he was because he never fought in his prime. So, and obviously the second reason is with everything that's going on is pay. You know, he asked Canelo to, he's been offered. Obviously, the contracts weren't signed. So I'm not sure legality. If the contracts were signed, would he have had better luck? But unfortunately for him, the contracts weren't signed, so Canelo can really offer him what he wants to offer him. And Canelo's guaranteed. He's on the big DAZN deal. He's guaranteed. I think 33 million a fight. So why would he take a pay cut? He don't have to. So obviously he's offered Billy Joe a pay cut, and Billy Joe said no. And I get it because it's a big fight, and Billy Joe is very business savvy. That's one thing I'd say about him. He does. He's managed by MTK. He tends to want to get bang for his buck. And I can't say he's scared because when they offered him the money to fight Lemieux, he went. He did go to fight Andrade, but obviously that because of what happened that got cancelled. So um, he's very business savvy minded. He left Frank and no issues. You don't see him in court with Frank, so he knows how to handle his business. And obviously he feels that he's not getting the money he wants, and I can understand that, but at the same time, I'm hearing now that Canelo Alvarez has decided, he's the cash cow, and he's actually saying he's going to take a pay cut. Obviously, percentage wise, it's different. If Canelo's getting 33 million and he decides to take a 5 million pay cut to 28 million, that's what 5% of 30. I don't know what that's like 10, 15%. He's taking a pay cut. Obviously, if Billy Joe was going to get 10 million and he's taking a 5 million, that's obviously 50%. So in percentage wise, it's a big difference. I think that's probably what he's referring to. So it's a bit of a shame that fight's not going to happen, but maybe it'll happen in May next year. I'm not too sure. Billy Joe's saying he's going to have a tick over and then he's going to fight Andrade. Will that fight happen? When the fight, it's a risky fight and the money was there and the fight before and the fight didn't happen. Now the money's less and it's still risky, even not more risky now because Andrade before was coming off a layoff. And I think Saunders was getting him at a good time, and I favoured Saunders to win that fight. But now Andrade's had a few fights, been the more active fighter. He ain't coming off a layoff. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be a difficult fight, and obviously weight as well. Andrade is at 160 now. Saunders at 168. I don't see Andrade coming up all the way to 168. So potentially they'll meet a catch weight. But if Billy Joe's saying he can't train properly for Alvarez, he's probably having trouble making 168. So asking him to now make a catch weight of say 164.5, he might not have. It might be impossible. So bit unfortunate. Now we're looking at who will Canelo fight on September, and the front runner is looking like this guy Sergey Derevchenko. I think it's a good fight. Like I said, when Mayweather fought, he was the money man, and people would take the fight. Derevchenko, literally, it's a big opportunity for him. If they offer him £1 million, he's gonna take the fight. Obviously he's not gonna take it for free. He's a boxer, but he knows he's gonna apparently Billy Joe said he's getting offered less than he did for Jacobs, but it's a big fight. We've seen with Andy Ruiz, late replacement, knocked out Joshua, then went on to become a superstar in a sense, and then made 15 million. It does happen. I don't think it will happen, but it because I but it can happen. I think for Canelo, in terms of star wise, Jerichenko is a guy that fights in the pocket, and Canelo loves those fighters. He's improved, like I say. I think he's a more complete fighter, but he lost to Floyd and questionable against Lara. But Canelo's always loved those guys that come forward. He's not the typical Mexican fighter that fights fire with fire. He's more of a counterpuncher, and he loves guys that come forward. And this guy fights in the pocket, and I think he'll just suit Canelo's style perfectly, and he'll also be um, a fan favorite fight, whereas Billy Joe was already not going to be. And obviously, this guy, I know he'll take the money. He's trained by Andy Rosier, which is Danny Jacobs' trainer, and obviously he wasn't in the corner when he fought Derevchenko fought Jacobs, but he'll be in the corner for this fight. And obviously, Luke says his residence is New York, so he's in America, so there won't be no issues with him having to come there. And obviously, he's got a name, like as you can see, he's fought Jacobs and Golovkin, both losses, but Jacobs was a split decision. I thought he lost both fights, but Jacobs was a close fight and he gave him a hard fight. Golovkin again, some people say he was robbed. I thought Golovkin just did enough, but again, it was a very close fight, and you can see in the scores, it was such a close fight. So I think he has that name. Um, the other two options, Callum Smith, he was mentioned before for the May date originally, and he didn't get the fight. I don't see that fight happening. I think so many factors. One of them is obviously Callum Smith's coming off that World Boxing Series, so he's going to want serious money as well, like Saunders, which is just not there. Obviously, getting into America is going to be an issue. Obviously, the risk. Callum Smith's a big super middleweight, could be fighting at 175 like heavyweight. Canelo didn't want him before. Why would he now suddenly pick him now? I don't see him going down that route. Especially they're looking for a cheap opponent. I think it's kind of clear. So I don't see that happening. Maybe one for the future if Canelo does decide to stay at 168, which there should be no excuse. We know he's not going to fight the PPC guys like the Benefidas and the Plant, which again is a bit of a shame. But Smith is on their side. He's with Eddie Hearn. He's with DAZN. Well, I don't think he's got an official deal with DAZN, but he's kind of with DAZN, and so obviously Canelo's with DAZN, and that could be a future fight, but not now. And then the last one, he's throwing his name in the ring again, John Ryder. John Ryder, he's having a kind of resurgence. He'll take the fight again for cheap money, and he'd love to take the fight. He's coming off controversial loss to Callum Smith. A lot of people had Ryder winning the fight. I thought, man, it was a close fight, man. I think one thing I'd say is the scorecards were just ridiculous, man. Like they were, like you see him now, 117, 111. It wasn't like that kind of fight. It was like a round maybe. Give it either way. Maybe if Ryder was a champion, he probably would have got the nod. I don't know what kind of scorecards they were. Um, Problem with him is star wise, he's a southpaw, tricky fight, not really fan entertainment. Obviously, he's coming off two losses against Callum Smith, and he's lost to Billy Joe Saunders before, even though he's got a lot better. He's not really a notable name he hasn't fought anyone of note in America, so I don't think it's really a good. It's a cheap fight again. He'll be in the cheap list, which is what Canelo's going to look for. But in terms of, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll go with Jerichenko. That seems a good fight, and I think as well with the weight wise, Jerichenko fights at 160. Canelo will probably make him come up to the full 168. Like I said, when you fight Canelo, it's the lottery. You do what he says, and that will be another advantage for Canelo and against Jerichenko. So I don't think that fight's going to happen. So next piece of news I want to touch on is a potential. As we start ramping up, we're gonna see if we can see big fights. This fight, I wouldn't say it's you know obviously there's no belt on the line. Luke Campbell versus Ryan Garcia, but it's an interesting fight. Ryan Garcia is kind of this sensation. He's like I wouldn't say like obviously being popular in boxing's always been a factor from Jack Johnson days when he was popular, not popular but infamous, and then Muhammad Ali. So it's always been a factor about what you do outside the ring. But obviously, social media is become so prevalent now, and Ryan Garcia really is that social media star. His numbers are amazing, like his followers on Instagram and stuff. So I think he's done so much outside of the ring. Inside the ring, he's called the Flash. He's got some silk skills, fast hands. But he hasn't been in there with anyone of note, but he's got some highlight reel knockouts, which is always good for those 20-second Instagram clips. And obviously, he's a good looking young man, so he's quite popular with the ladies. Which again, like that's one thing that helped Joshua's rise. I'd never seen so many women interested in boxing till Anthony Joshua came along. So he's definitely a star, but obviously he's not fighting anyone, and he wants the big money. So he's having issues with his promoter. But the WBC, Luke Campbell was meant to fight Javier Fortuna, I believe. But then obviously, because that got delayed, Haney's back, and they've now ordered it was Campbell against that was then going to be for the interim fight, not the real belt. But now Fortuna, I think, is injured, so they've ordered Garcia, and it looks like it's a big fight because Garcia might take that. And obviously, if he does take it, that puts him in a straight collision course with Haney. And will the fight happen? In ordinary circumstances, I would say no if Ryan Garcia beats Campbell because both are young. They tend to let them fights bubble up a bit more, but they're both under the zone, so who knows? And they've been talking about wanting it with each other, but I don't know. But this fight, I think, is a good fight. I think Luke Campbell's very, I think he's very underrated. I think no, not over underrated. He's a good boxer. He's going along that path of the George Groves, where maybe it's the third time lucky he'll get a world title. He's a great boxer, Olympic gold medalist. I thought that he gave Lomachenko probably Lomachenko's toughest fight, and I've seen Lomachenko make guys quit. He didn't reflect it in the scorecards, which was a bit funny, but he definitely, to me, gave him a tough fight, and I think, yeah, I think this will be a good test. This will be if Ryan Garcia. He said he's going to take it, and if he does take it, this will be a test for Ryan Garcia. Maybe when it comes to the money, he'll start saying, "Nah, the money's not enough," and then the fight will not materialize. But it's a big fight, man, and it's a risky fight. The only thing I'd say is that Ryan Garcia, he's been chasing Alvarez down. Obviously, Alvarez, the fight couldn't happen because I think Alvarez resides in Japan and he can't get into America, so that's obviously with everything going on, that's kind of a non-starter. But Linares beat Luke Campbell. It was a close fight, but I did think Linares deserved it, especially with the knockdown. So, in logical sense, why would if Ryan Garcia was desperate to fight Linares now, why would he now be scared of the guy that Linares beat? I think Luke Campbell's got better since then, and Linares has probably got worse. But just on that logic alone, why not? Why would he be scared of Luke Campbell? Obviously, Luke Campbell's got a great amateur background. Ryan Garcia hasn't, so that could put him at a distance. But I can see this fight happening. I think, it's really going to depend on how much money the zone want to put up for it. Do they think it's viable? Obviously, another issue is where's the fight going to be held? We know Eddie Hearn's doing his fight camp. Ryan Garcia is not coming to fight in Eddie Hearn's back garden, I'll tell you that. So it's going to have to be a headline card in America on its own, and they're going to be able to do that. But if it happens, it'll be an interesting fight. I think it'll be a big step up in competition for Ryan Garcia, and it'll definitely show. If he gets Luke Campbell out of there, knocks him out, or beats him convincingly, it'll definitely show he's the real deal and a potential next superstar. He's trained with the Reynosos, he trains with Canelo. You can tell he likes to learn. He's got a great social media following. He's young. He's only 21. Got the looks. He's got everything now. He just really needs the resume. And if he gets that, he'll definitely be one of the next boxing superstars. So hopefully the fight happens. And the last bit of news I want to touch on, again, big news this week. Dillian Whyte, who's been trained by Mark Tibbs for the last 4 years, has decided to part company with him. Obviously, that would have already been a strange announcement on its own, but the fact that Dillian Whyte is got a scheduled match on August the 22nd, which is just over a month away, about 5 to 6 weeks out, it is even more strange. Now, this article here is talking about the breakdown of communications. We can get into that because Mark Tibbs was told via Dillian Whyte's lawyer, so we can get into if that was the right way to go around things. But in terms of the actual breakup, yeah, it's interesting. I think there was already rumbling. Dillian Whyte, Dillian White he's got his business head on. Maybe sometimes too much when he didn't get the Joshua rematch, but he's definitely a smart guy. And he decided from early before lockdown there were no gyms open in the UK. He heard Portugal was a bit relaxed, and he literally just went to Portugal. I don't know his family life, so I don't know if he brought his kids out there or whatever, or his partner, if he has one or whatever. But he definitely went to Portugal. And at the end of the day, listen, he's what 32. Next 3 years, 4 years are the kind of the prime of his life. So I'm sure he'd want to leave and think, I've done everything I've done in boxing. I've made some good money. 36, my kids are still young. Then I'll give them that time. Things happen, but I'm sure that's his thinking. And he went to Portugal, like I'm still in this warrior mindset, and I still want to be out there and doing his thing. And Mark Tibbs didn't go with him. So obviously that was warning signs. Again, Mark Tibbs says in this article he's opening a gym. He's got a family. There's like obviously like one of the things that's come out of everything is that people are at home. I'm sure he's been on training camps, of course, but he's probably when he told his wife, well, potentially I need to go to Portugal for the next 3 months. His wife's probably like, no. So this is the time you should be at home. So Dylan White's been training on his own, and potentially he's just probably got to the point where, you know what, he's got this guy, I think Xavier Martin, again, I guess he's called, and he's basically going to be in the corner. He's been in the corner before. He knows Dylan White. He's not just like some random guy. He's got his own training. He's got other fighters. Obviously, none of them are known, but we all have to start somewhere. So in terms of on that big stage, just like Mark Tibbs, he didn't have anybody. He was son of Jimmy Tibbs, and he didn't really have any big fighters. And obviously, Dylan White was his first one, and he took him those 4 years. With a Povetkin fight, I don't think it will make much difference. I think Dylan White is going to be too big, too strong, as long as he's in the right mind frame and fit. Povetkin's only chance is just to catch him with that big left hook. Dylan White can be caught off balance. He can come in, but I don't think it's going to affect him too much. And then, like I said, he's been training with this guy now. This guy's in Portugal again. A Ben Davison type of situation. That Xavier guy maybe does have a family, but for him, this is an opportunity now because no one knew he's been around in boxing, but no one knows who he is. Now you're Dillian White's trainer. From there, you get recognition. Then from there, you maybe get other high-profile fighters. Which Riakpor's left Mark Tibbs as well. He's a big fighter. Potentially coming up to like British European level. Now maybe he gets him as well. So that's how it kind of starts. So obviously for him to leave his family and stuff, he probably thought, no, this is an opportunity I just really cannot part with. I need to be with Dillian because this is my opportunity. It's a pay-per-view fight. It's going to be the biggest card in months, and he's going to be the head coach. Like it's an opportunity he probably couldn't turn down. Whereas Mark Tibbs is, he's been in big events. He's had the Chisora, the Parkers, the Rivas's. Maybe he thought, it's not something he's been there, done it kind of thing. Obviously, if it was a world title shot, I'm sure he probably wouldn't have. He would have made a different decision. But I think Dillian White will be okay for the Povetkin fight going forward. Like I said, that guy is going to give him that tailored need, like Ben Davison is going to be with him 24/7. Going forward after the Povetkin fight, if he gets through that, obviously he's going to be looking for that world title shot. He's mandated for February. Will it happen? I don't know, but Fury. I'm not sure about Wilder, but if Wilder is anything like he was before, he's always going to be a dangerous fighter. And obviously Joshua, who he's lost to, I don't know if this guy is going to be the guy that can get him to that level. Because one thing that Mark Tibbs had is that he had his dad, and Jimmy Tibbs is a great trainer. He's been around for ages, and clearly, I see him in the corner sometimes as well. So clearly, he was giving his son Mark Tibbs some instructions and advice, and that experience is what Dillian's going to be missing, and that experience can make the difference in a big fight. Like I said, we see with Fury when he Sugar Hill, who learned from Emmanuel Stewart, he passed that knowledge down to Sugar Hill, and Sugar Hill was able to give it to Tyson Fury, and you see what he done in the rematch. So Dillian White's going to need something like that. Whether he's going to need that on a part-time basis or a full-time basis, I don't know. But I think after the Povetkin fight, he's going to have to reassess the situation, obviously depending on the outcome. In terms of the way it was handled, you know what? Listen, it's business, I guess. I don't know if they had a relationship before he became his trainer. Mark Tibbs has certainly financially benefited out of it. Dillian White's last few fights, to draw a second one. I'm not sure about the first one, but to draw a second one was no first one as well was on pay per view. Second one was on pay per view. Some great cards, but they were both on pay per view. Rivas was pay per view. So Parker was pay per view. So he's not like he was doing it for free. Tibbs, the business arrangement. Obviously, when you're with someone like that and you do form that bond, you do feel like people should be able to just pick up the call and communicate these things. Dillian White's chosen to do it for a lawyer. Potentially, he's thinking, you know what, you didn't kind of communicate your situation to me well. You've made it known to me that it's business. So I'll just make it known to you it's business, and I'll just get my lawyer to handle everything. Which I guess is the smart way to do it. Is it the right way to do it? Who knows? Triple G broke up with his trainer, Abel Sanchez, who's the guy when Triple G first came to America, and some say this whole Mexican style. Triple G is not Mexican. Abel Sanchez is. So where did he get that Mexican style from? It must be Abel Sanchez, and that's what Triple G built his career on. But when it came to Abel Sanchez in wanting more money, Triple G said, "No, I'm in the prime of my career. I don't really have no more money to give you. All that years of loyalty, it doesn't mean nothing no more." And he just left him. So, and it's happened with trainers that leave fighters. So, listen, probably not the best way to do it, but it's business, and he didn't do nothing wrong. He's got a decision to make. So, yeah, I don't think it will affect him for the Povetkin fight. I think he's been training, he's been focused. I'm not sure what Povetkin's been doing. He's been in Russia. I'm sure he's been doing the same because I think Povetkin's too experienced, so it will be a great fight. But I think he'll be able to get through it. I think he has made it harder, and generally it's going to be a new experience anyway because there's not going to be no fans in Eddie Hearn's back garden, so everything was going to be new anyway. So having a new coach is just adding the new things, and we've seen people have new coaches and it hasn't necessarily um, done them wrong. But then I just feel like after that fight, when you come to the big guys, you need experience in the camp. And maybe he has got that behind the scenes with other people. I don't know. But I do know one thing Mark Tibbs brought was experience from his dad, Jimmy Tibbs. And that's going to be sorely missed. But yeah, that's the kind of the big stories that I felt this week to cover. Subscribe to my channel and yeah, I'll speak later. Thank you.